Time to welcome in from New Schools for Baton Rouge, Ken Campbell. We like to check in with Ken every so often, and he's in right now. Good morning, man. How are you?
How you doing? I'm good. I'm
doing
good.
all right. I apologize leaving you hanging outside for a little while, just enjoying
It's
the
a great
fall,
day.
right?
Absolutely. You know, it's not too hot, no rain. I'm okay.
Absolutely. So, we got a lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
I'm not really sure where to start. There was a letter to the editor in the Advocate not long ago. Very, very afraid, seemingly afraid of charter schools. Let me just open up the floor and say, do you care to comment on? I'll pull up the letter here in just a second, but let's start with your comments and work backwards.
Yeah. Well, someone wrote a response to a piece that I had published that essentially, pushing our newly elected school board members towards operating with excellence, right, and prioritizing, student achievement, especially for those students who are really behind. And then there was a response published, which was really cool. So I don't know the person who wrote the response, but I wrote down a quote so that I could read it.
Well, I've got the whole thing in front of me. So, but roll with the quote.
Yeah. So what she says is there's a vast, insidious, and relentless movement to privatize public schools, silence the democratic voices of families, and leave under-resourced children out in the cold. Yeah. And so the first thing that happens when I read this is I immediately hone in on these under-resourced children left out in the cold.
Yes.
And I can't worry so much about children who might be left out in the cold. I worry about the ones who are being left out in the cold right now.
Yes.
There are 21,000 kids at D and F rated schools in Baton Rouge. That's about half of students in Baton Rouge schools. Every year, we have thousands of eighth graders who go into high school, not even close to being ready to do high school work. The rates for the number of children passing Algebra 1, which is an incredibly important course for critical thinking, problem solving, is almost in the single digits. And so, ACT scores have been down 5 years, in a row. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing that leads me to believe that we aren't leaving children out in the cold right now.
And have been for more than a generation.
Absolutely.
And it shows in our economy. It shows in our workforce. It shows in our crime rate.
Absolutely. And so to think that we should say, well, you kids have to stay, in these schools while we figure it out is ridiculous. Like, I can't look into the eyes of families. I can't look into a parent's eyes. I can't look into a child's eyes and say, I want you to stay in this school that I would never send my child to.
Right.
And like I said, I don't know the author of this letter, but typically, the folks who write these letters, have figured out through privilege or resources or whatever it is, how to get their kids into really good schools. Mm-hmm. But they want other people's kids to stay in schools they would never send their kids to. And I'm not that dude, Brian. I can't do that, right? And I think we need to create every type of opportunity we can for those families and give them a real shot.
So, and my thing on this, and this is since charter schools started getting to Baton Rouge, since New Schools for Baton Rouge started working, which is going more than a decade.
More than a decade now, yeah.
It's crazy. The idea that the system's broken, but we're going to continue to do the same thing to try to fix it.
Yeah.
What's needed? More money. How much more money?
Yeah.
More.
Yeah.
No one can ever give an amount. No one can put a dollar to it.
Yes.
They could just say, we're going to take more. Are we seeing better results? No.
Yes.
We're not. So let's do something different. I mean, the old school, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yes.
This is different.
This is different.
It's going to take a full generation to know how solid that result can be.
Without a doubt.
But if we can go from 21,000 down to 10, that's progress.
That's amazing, right? And at the end of the day, we are, and I am agnostic about the type of school, right? Mm-hmm. We have great traditional public schools.
Yeah,
we have magnet schools, right? We have schools that are doing a really great job for families all the time. We have schools that are beating the odds. We just don't have enough of those. And for us to say that, well, let's just keep this the way it is, we can't do that. And so we need more schools, I think, that operate with charter-like fashion, and even some of the really good schools operate with the kind of autonomy that charter schools get. Parents, principals, they amass power. They're able to keep schools going the way that they need to go. And so I just think we need more schools. Not everything we try, not everything the district tries is going to work. But at the end of the day, if we aren't urgent every day when we get up saying we got to run faster for these kids, we got to do more, we got to try different things, then I think we're assigning them to a life of failure.
The one that clicked with me, the first analogy that ever clicked with me about charter schools was if you have a sinking ship, and enough lifeboats to get some of the people off the ship.
Yes.
Does everybody have to drown because you don't have enough for everybody?
Yeah.
And that was kind of the side by side. I'm like, that's true.
Yeah.
You're not going to solve, like, was it George W. Bush's education plan, No Child Left Behind?
No Child Left Behind.
Yeah. Well, sadly, some children are going to be left behind. You want to grab as many as you can, and ignoring choice ignores those children as well.
Yeah, and Brian, the only thing I'll say about your analogy, because I love it, is that the people who are making the argument are already on lifeboats, right, that are half full.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, they're okay, and then they're looking up saying, oh, you know, you can't put just 20 people on here because you got 50 people. I'm okay, but I can look up here and say you need to stay.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me.
So that was your takeaway quote. Mine was, and the word insidious comes up again. This insidious agenda is evident in Campbell's letter. He uses sanitized buzzwords that the privatization movement deploys to make public schools' destruction appear more palatable. Okay, couple things here. First of all, when you say, when the term sanitized buzzwords is used, my immediate takeaway from that is, I'm not going to tell you what he said. I'm going to tell you how I felt.
Yes.
I'm not going to tell you what he said. I'm going to tell you what I heard.
That's right.
And those are two different things.
They are.
And it's important to take things at face value.
Yes.
And not say, what did you mean by that?
Right.
Well, I meant what I said.
Yes.
The other part of this is make public schools' destruction appear more palatable.
Yeah.
What have y'all done to destroy public schools?
I don't think we've done anything to destroy public schools. And again, what we have done, I think, is we have created new options within the public education sphere that give parents choice for the first time. See, there are parents in this community who exercise choice every day, Brian. They choose to send their kids to private schools. I don't see this letter saying we need to close down all private schools and send kids to public schools, because they say parents who have money, they should be able to choose. We have parents who use their privilege to get into magnet schools, which are the closest to being private schools that public schools have.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because me and my kids can get in here. Right.
And the magnet school part is a sticking point to me.
Yeah.
I work 3 jobs, and my kids go to private school.
Yeah.
We wanted them. It's not about the difference in education. It's about the Catholic education.
That's right.
We want to raise our kids Catholic, and that's what we believe.
Absolutely.
So we work for it.
That's right.
But if you are on an even playing field in the public school arena, the magnet school, like that delineation feels different to me. I don't understand why you would have any kind of angst towards a charter school that you wouldn't have towards a magnet.
I totally
and
agree.
I'm not dissing magnet schools.
Yes,
okay.
I love magnet schools. I think it's great. Many of these types of letters come from parents who are magnet school parents. And I think they are doing the best that they can for their kids. What we're simply saying is everybody should have the ability to do the best for their kids. And if we could create some options for families who don't have the means, who don't have the privilege, and give them some power and the ability to choose, that's what we should be doing.
So let's get to the hard part, though.
Yeah.
Let's get to the question that I don't think anybody's really asking. What it takes to get into a magnet school, what it takes to get into a private school, what it takes to get into a charter school initiative.
Yes. Yes.
So how do we address the question of what do you do for the children whose parents don't take the initiative?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Well, first, I think this is an important point to make. Charter school enrollment has continued to grow each year, while traditional public school enrollment has continued to decline. So that tells us that parents are understanding, hearing, learning, seeing that there's something different, and they are moving with their feet. They are choosing. They are saying, I don't want to be here, I want to be here. And so I think more and more parents are starting to do that, right? They understand that now I have options. I can move my child to a different place. So I think there's more initiative than people want to say. At the end of the day, we just haven't yet created enough really good options in both charter schools and the traditional public school system. So sometimes, Brian, unfortunately, they're choosing between the better of not great options yet. And I think that's where we are. But I think there is much more initiative, and it's a misnomer to say that they are. I mean, we have, we run Enroll BR, which gives parents a way to apply to multiple schools at one time. We're probably going to have 3,000, 4,000 applications this year from families who say, yeah, I want to choose. I want a different school. So I just think more and more parents are getting, they're understanding this better. They're getting more sophisticated. They're making choices. I actually see that happening in real time.
The letter to the editor says, when he talks about expanding high-quality educational options to meet parent demand, He's talking about opening up more charter schools that make more charter organizations money, bleed taxpayer dollars away from existing public schools, and probably don't improve educational outcomes.
Yeah.
Can we address that last part?
Yeah.
Because the rest of it is
Yes.
she's just sifting through words to sift through words.
Yeah.
But probably don't improve educational outcomes. Is there any merit or basis to saying probably don't?
No, I actually think, again, when you look at the schools that are part of our portfolio, they have been some of the fastest growing schools in Baton Rouge. Now, when you have a school and they go into the most struggling parts of our community, you get a school population that's probably 95% low socioeconomic status.
Right.
You get kids who have not done well in school. And so it takes a long time to get that absolute level of performance on par with what we'd like to see. But when you look at the growth scores, you look at how much faster kids in charters are growing than they are in their traditional public schools, I think it's unequivocal that a lot of those schools are doing great. Not all of them, Brian. I would never say all of them. I would never say charter is better. That is not what this is about. What this is about is, can we create great options for families, people who can come in and do this in a different way? I think we've shown that we can do that. And at the same time, we can work to try to make the whole system better for everybody.
One would hope. He is Ken Campbell from New Schools for Baton Rouge. I appreciate a couple minutes this morning hopping in to address a few of the items on here. There's so much more to dig into.
And look, I'm really happy that someone wrote this letter. I think we need to have these debates more openly and more often, right? We need to talk about what it really takes to improve education for all kids and not protect the kind of fiefdom that I have and my ability to choose over other people.
Sure, you be above board about it. I'll be petty about it and say we're more than a decade into this experiment. We're still hearing the same talking points. And when you see words like probably mean I don't have numbers to show you. This is just what my bitterness.
I can do numbers, Brian. I can do numbers. If you want to do numbers, let's get out and do numbers.
Well, we're gonna have to do that at a later time because we're just straight up out of time. Ken, I appreciate you coming in this morning, man.
It's good to see you. Thanks
a million. We got CBS News covering your way, John.